So I think I'm gonna get back into Yu-Gi-Oh. Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Returning to Yu-Gi-Oh! Today we are going to iterate on our going second hero deck. We're going to enter into another online locals, but before we get to any of that, if you missed last week's episode, we essentially moved on in Cimo YugiTuber Grand Championship, made the top 4, and we've been notified that in the next round we are going to be playing against Farfa. It's really cool that we have an opportunity to play with him, and we did decide to make things a little more interesting by letting the communities choose the cards for our deck. Now, all you guys had to do was donate to any Black Lives Matter charity of your choice. In the end, cumulatively, we raised over $4,000, and because of you guys, you turned a game of cards. You turned what would have been just another match of Yu-Gi-Oh! Online into something that actually had an impact, something that actually made a difference, and I wanted to say that I'm incredibly proud of all of you. So thank you for being a part of the shenanigans which you are about to witness. Now, the deck you created, it was something special. You guys chose an incredibly nostalgic card in Blue Eyes White Dragon, the channel mascot with Hungry Burger, as well as some currently competitive cards like that of Stratos and the new arch nemesis boss monster, which is actually incredibly good. So with that, here is the deck you created, and oh boy, is it eclectic, captivating, and well, certainly original. We had to make it 60 cards and duplicates weren't allowed, so I suppose it would have been rather interesting regardless, but honestly, I'm super pumped to give it a go, and I just wanted to say a big thank you to you guys for giving me an excuse to dig up some of these very nostalgic, again, just absolute classics. Now, if I had one goal in this match, it's definitely to summon the Hungry Burger, but I definitely need to finish this intro because Farf and I are going to play in a couple of minutes. So let's hop into it, have some fun. What an interesting opening hand. Five-headed dragon? I don't have an out to that. Summoning the Blue Eyes White Dragon right here is objectively like a bad call, but we're doing it anyway because like big fucking anime moments and like... Oh, that's my first time swearing in the series. Sorry about that. I guess I could just cut it out. I don't know, it might be funny. Okay, guys, I need you to hear me out here on this one. We have an opportunity to summon the Hungry Burger. We will lose to the five-headed dragon. We'll take like 3,000 damage, but we will summon the burger. I think we do it. Yeah. Okay, and also, we could summon it in defense, but we're not cowards. So, we're going all in, we're going attack mode, and we're gonna do it. Oh, pendulum! Best deck! Yeah! Let's go, baby! Shout out to Triff. And he has game. Oh! But he's not going for it. Why? He doesn't have it. Does have it. He deserves to win this one. He's strong, deserves to win this one. So we just concluded our match, and I have to say, that was incredible. It was so much fun. And I do want to talk spoilers, so if you haven't watched the match yet, I'm going to leave a time code right below me, which you can skip to. There will also be a link in the video description to the full match commentated by Cimo. I have no doubt that he will get that up before I get this vlog out. So with all of that out of the way, Guys, that was so much fun. Farfa won a strong 2-0, heavily deserved, especially after summoning that Winged Dragon of Ra. When it got hit with the Dark Hole and I had the Inspector Portal, I was like, no, that's not even fair. Like, I don't want to play it. I have to, because, like, that's how you play the game. But I really wanted him to have the out. I'm very glad that he had the Magic Cylinder. At this point, just such a wild card in our history. I know that John from House of Champs also has quite the history with it as well. So, amazing ending to an amazing run in the tournament. We made top 4, played against so many legends, but thank you so much, Farfa, for just having fun with me, playing these ridiculous decks. Also, big thank you to you, Cimo, for inviting me on to this tournament despite the fact that this channel is only like 7 months old. And I did just want to say another thank you again to all of you at home who did just make such an impact and, you know, who gave us such an opportunity to play such fun cards. So thank you to everybody involved. And with that, we are now going to move on in the video. Next on the docket, we are going to talk about what's in the box. Is my address showing? Okay, no, it is not. Onto the box. Imperium Duelist reached out a little while ago and offered to send me a mystery box of Yu-Gi-Oh! Supplies. Now, I had seen their products on Winterkill's channel before, and I was quite excited, as they do seem to make a wide variety of really cool things that I just don't really have as a new player. This includes custom dice, some of which including iconic Yu-Gi-Oh! Artwork, engraved like that of Scapegoat, Pot of Greed, Ring of Destruction, really anything to do with GOAT format. As someone who grew up with GOAT format, this is awesome. Also included were some custom metal dice with their logo, and I am a massive fan of the black and gold colorway. If you haven't been able to tell by my wardrobe and my jewelry. Yeah, black and gold, big fan. We also received a really cool assortment of stickers, again depicting a lot of awesome classic cards. There is also a small cloth Shaddoll playmat, which to be honest, would be great for the gym once that opens back up. We also have a number of 2-player cloth playmats featuring some clean, minimalistic designs, as well as a Super Smash Bros. Character playmat. I grew up with Melee, I adore this franchise, and the mat is awesome. That said, Imperium Duelist was incredibly generous, and we're still not done. They also sent over a myriad of sleeves, which include varying textures, some of which have this embossed finish, while others actually have what they describe as an illuminating effect. Now, I've actually seen these a couple of times at regionals, and I was quite curious as to where I could pick them up, so I was really happy when I did notice that they were in here. Finally, we received, well, what could you possibly put in this? Certainly not cards. We keep those in a tin as it's made of metal and certainly more safe. This is actually where I keep all of my alties. So, all joking aside, we actually have a wild assortment of really cool custom Yu-Gi-Oh! Products, and Imperium Duelist definitely doubled down on the quality aspect of the dice, the sleeves, the bags, the deck box. Did I just admit that it's a deck box? Moving on, it's it's great, and I'm just very grateful. Hey guys, good morning. It is... I'm not sure what day it is. It's still rather early, but my girlfriend and I were going to go make some breakfast, and I wanted to give you a little bit of context before we jump into that. A couple of months ago, Blade YGO tweeted out this picture of a very nice looking egg. Did a very good job, but then MBT stepped in and he posted what can only be described as an immaculate creation. That said, he also low-key, in a friendly way, called us out. So I've essentially spent the last couple of months kind of in the back of my head thinking about what the best, most top tier egg dish could be. I think I've finally figured it out, so let's hop in the kitchen and make something fun. Now the challenge was to make an egg dish, and I wanted to get creative. This meant doing more than just an omelet, and after months of deliberation, Maya and I found what I am calling the triple threat. Here we're beginning with some homemade waffles and some perfectly timed poached eggs. These are the first two pieces of the puzzle. The third step was to apply some homemade warm hollandaise sauce. It's predominantly made with eggs, butter, and lemon juice. It's quite tricky to time and get the right consistency, but when you do, it is absolutely incredible. With that, some seasoning and chives, we arrive at a top tier Eggs Benedict. So, admittedly, not your traditional egg dish, but hollandaise sauce, absolutely delicious. Does take a little bit of practice to get your timing and consistency right, but when they are, absolutely top tier. That said, I would like to say a big thank you to both MBT and Blade YGO for instigating this, and if you haven't already, check out MBT's 10-minute testing series. Honestly, guys, it is one of the absolute best YugiTubing series out there right now. Inevitably, whenever he posts, one of my friends and I are going to have a conversation about it, talk about the combos, the different ideas, just how funny it is. It's a really, really well-rounded series. And also, the note of content creation, in the last episode, we talked about Blade YGO and how he was launching a podcast. Nyhmnims and I were on episode 1. It was a lot of fun. We talked for about an hour about content creation in general. Heavily recommend it, and I will include links to both channels in the video description. That said, let's talk about heroes. Now, in last week's episode, we did talk quite a bit about the inclusion of the Fusion Destiny package in Going Second Heroes. It's a very divisive conversation, to say the least, but we did a lot of testing with it, a lot of testing without it. In the end, we came to some very mixed conclusions, so let's talk about that. The package has essentially been in the deck forever, as it does a lot. It is a 1-card Darklaw, 1-card OTK, sets up your graveyard, baits Ash. It is incredibly versatile, and if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I do include it in pretty much all of my builds. However, space is tight, and I'm trying to keep a very open mind, specifically with this Going Second build. I know I want to main Dark Ruler no more for almost everything, Lightning Storms for Altergeist, which did just get Faker to 3, and Hand Traps for FTKs because apparently they're back. I almost feel Infinite Impermanence is also almost mandatory in a format full of first turn True King of all calamities. Accumulatively, these cards do take up between 10 to 15 slots, and that means we need to do some major cutting if we want to keep the list at 40. I'm currently leaning towards cutting the Fusion Destiny package, not because the cards aren't great, but because the list is already incredibly tight, and I don't want to cut consistency cards like that of E-Calls or Stratos. It's worth noting that you could play a 45 or 46 card variant. However, I'm a little hesitant right here. I'm not opposed to that. It's something that's worked for heroes quite a bit, specifically in the last year. However, we really want to maximize our chances mathematically of drawing Dark Ruler no more and Infinite Impermanence. So, the higher card count we have, the lesser chance we have of drawing those very impactful cards. And so with this variant, at least initially, I want to keep it at 40. I hope that all makes sense. Now, all of that, it leads me to a more serious part of the conversation in this video, but one that I think is important and one that I think we need to discuss. So, let's talk about toxicity in the community. I am a part of a hero Facebook group, and in general, it's fantastic, but there was a bit of a civil war in in the group. There's even a meme for it around Fusion Destiny and its inclusion of the deck. A lot of people noting that it should be in the deck, a lot of people noting that it shouldn't be in the deck, and initially, it started as these very humorous memes, and it was really quite funny. However, eventually things escalated, and it got very toxic. I know this is an issue that happens kind of everywhere on the internet. That's just kind of the cost of the internet. But these are smaller communities, and we have the opportunity, the potential to make them a good place. So I noticed this was happening. A lot of other people did. A number of posts were made saying, guys, you know what? We're playing a card game that we can't even play in real life. Like, it's not actually that serious whether you play card X or not. Doesn't actually matter all that much. And in the end, about a day later, things were actually great. Things were back to normal. People were friendly. People were open-minded, accepting. There were also just like incredibly nice posts, people going out of their way to just be great people. I'll try to put something up on the screen if I can go back and find it. But with that said, it's not an issue that was contained to that group specifically. It's something we see in every Yu-Gi-Oh group. It's something we see in every comment section, something we hear about in real life. But it might seem funny in the moment, saying, oh, that person's dumb, oh, that person doesn't know what they're doing, oh, that person... I get it. But it's important to recognize that we're talking to real people. Yes, we're talking on the computer. Yes, we're talking to a screen, but we're also talking to real people. And you never know what position someone's in. You don't know their mental health. You don't know what they're going through. As a content creator, I get messages all the time from people noting that they left the game because they felt like they were just being attacked and harassed for playing card X, for playing deck X. And this isn't just online, it's at card shops too. And I know I'm getting a little fired up here, but it's because it's important. It's because I just see so much shit. I'm gonna try to bring it back down and just note that this is something that is more serious than I think a lot of us realize. Because again, mental health, incredibly important. A lot of people right now at home kind of not able to do the things that fulfill them, that keep them happy, that keep them in a good place mentally. And you never know what situation someone's in. Depression, it's very common. I think it's very common, especially in this space. And we need to take care of each other. We can't let bad things happen. I know that online recently we've lost someone to depression, not specifically in the Yu-Gi-Oh space, but, you know, I think someone that a lot of us are very aware of. And it's a hard conversation to have, but we need to make sure that people feel okay, that a card game doesn't break people down and make them feel like nothing, that their opinions and their ideas don't matter, that they're stupid. Lift people up. We need to ensure that this community is strong and that it's healthy and that it's a place that people can go to as an escape, to enjoy, to have fun, to be with friends, to be with people they care about, and to be with people they know care about them. Especially in Yu-Gi-Oh! I know a lot of people are kind of in a dark place. They do use this as a conduit for something good. And I think that's what we need to continue to progressively move towards, something good as a community. That's the rant. If this resonates with even one person and they don't attack someone online because of this talk, then it was worth it. I know it was long, but again, I think these things need to be said. And I thought about making a full video on it, but I think more people will watch this one. So wanted to say it here. That said, we are now going to move on with the hero deck and talk about the extra deck. Without Dangerous and Dystopia in the extra deck, we do adopt 2 new slots, which is great for 2 incredibly niche but fantastic masked heroes. These help us apply pressure, allow you to continue playing if Solid Soldier gets negated, and allows you to pick off things like that of Altergeist Traps, which again is very important when Faker is at 3. That said, here's a look at our current going second list, and in the end, I'm actually quite happy with this. It might be something that we need to tweak, it might be something we need to edit, and I am always open to keeping an open mind and changing things as we go, but at this point, I'm comfortable with it enough to take it to our online locals. That said, we do need to talk about the side deck because it took a much more comical turn. It's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. Putting that out there before we even jump into it, ridiculous. So here we have 15 trap cards. This is not what I would take to a regionals or a larger event. It is a pile of cards that I want to test, and this is the easiest way of going about it. That said, 12 traps are for going first, but they don't go all in at once. Anti-Spell is great against decks like Pendulum, but horrendous against Altergeist. Summon Limit is great against Salad, but terrible against Guru. Evenly is still in there for going second, and it essentially replaces the Dark Ruler No Mores when I'm playing against more back row heavy matchups. So again, while 15 traps in the side is undeniably absolutely ridiculous, we do have a justifiable reason and purpose for each and every one of them, so we are going to give it a shot. And speaking of shot, Gregway, 2 of you will get that reference, we are now going to hop into a tier 0 play I landed in Halo Reach the other day. So let's jump into it, have some fun. So to break this down, I was distracted on my phone. He got first shot and I realized that if he was a decent player, I am losing a simplified 1v1. So I throw myself off the edge without looking, land on a small platform below, which lifts me back up into battle. He has no idea what's going on. He thought he'd won, but we were channeling our inner Walshy, and we were taking that W. I really don't feel like any other game, any other franchise can really give me that same cathartic response as Halo. And if you are a Halo fan, it is going to be an amazing year. We have H3 coming to PC in just a couple of weeks. We have Infinite dropping this fall, and I cannot wait to stream all of this for you guys. That said, on a kind of sort of related note, I have finally made a Discord. So this is something you guys have been asking me to do for months now. It's something that I've really wanted to do, but it's something that I didn't want to dive into until I felt confident in my ability to really respond and be a part of that community. I didn't want to launch it and then just not be a part of it, but I have recently kind of reorganized my life. I do feel like we are at a point where we can launch this successfully. So there's now a link to the Discord in the comment section, and up there it's going to be dual purpose. We're going to talk about Halo, but we're also going to talk a lot about Yu-Gi-Oh! So what does that kind of entail? We're going to talk about what we are running at our locals. We're going to talk about what's doing well in the OCG, what's doing well at the TCG and higher events. Talk about new cards that are being printed, what's being imported, really all of that. It's going to be very diverse. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a very positive, friendly community. And on that kind of semi-related note of things that aren't really related to Yu-Gi-Oh! But kind of fit in this vlog, health and fitness. If you are not interested in health and fitness, you can skip to this timestamp right here where we will talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you are interested, let's talk about it. And this is something that I didn't intend to incorporate in the vlog initially, but I did send Cimo a pretty funny image to use in the match against Farfa. He put that up. I also put up a couple of progress pictures over on my Twitter. Received a lot of questions from Instagram, Twitter, YouTube comments. You guys, you reached out for this. So I figured, you know what? We'd film a segment, we'd talk about it. And I will note that I used to be really into bodybuilding. I would eat 8 meals a day. I would count my macros, my micros. I was working out for hours at a time, and I was very, very serious about it. Again, I doubled my weight. But when life got very busy, when my businesses really started to take off, I just didn't really have the time. So over the last year, I've really been slacking. As you can see, I'm not like the biggest guy. I'm not the smallest guy. Still pretty strong. So I figured I'd get back into it. Over the last month, I've been doing so, and I've been seeing a lot of progress. It's been a lot of fun, and I thought I'd introduce all of that to you. We'll talk about health, we'll talk about nutrition, my workout routine, and we'll also film a workout. So with that, let's grab some iron, have some fun.
All I've ever wanted
Hey guys, welcome back. It is the next day. You did just watch the full workout, and we will talk a little bit about that, but I do feel like 5 pounds lighter. Not because of the workout, the exercise, but rather because I had my first haircut in like 5 months. Feels great. Looking in the viewfinder, I think it looks great, and actually, I did this myself. So, welcome to quarantine life, right? And in regards to the workout, what you guys did see was a back and arm day. I will put up my full routine on the screen here in case you'd like to work off it. And it's also important to recognize that I do try to do all of these workouts twice a week for an accumulative 6 workouts a week. If you are getting into this, recognize that consistency is going to be your best friend with both exercising and eating healthy. While working out is incredibly important, honestly, if you are not eating well, if you're not counting your calories, your macros, and you don't have to do those things, but it really helps. That's really what's going to get you to great results. I've known so many guys who have gone to the gym day after day for year after year, and because they weren't eating properly, because they weren't hitting the right amount of protein, because they weren't having the right amount of calories consistently, they just weren't seeing progress, again, year after year. And this is something that does take a long period of time. I don't think I was really happy with my physique until I was like 5 years in. There are ways of doing things much more quickly, but if you want to stay away from extracurriculars, it is going to take time, but it's the healthy way of going about it. And with that, that was the workout. I hope you guys enjoyed, but the big tips again are: make sure you're eating well, look up how to track your calories, how to track your macros, and it's also worth noting that if you are just getting started, you don't need all of that equipment. Doing things like push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, all of that, it's a great way to get started. And once you kind of get past that, you can find ways of adding more weight. For instance, at the start of the workout, you guys saw that I used this chain belt. I just strapped this around my waist, put 2 25-pound plates on it, so accumulatively I think it was like 55 pounds, and that made it so that I wasn't doing like 50 pull-ups, I was doing like 12 each set. And that's important because when you're working out, rep ranges do have a big effect on the body. If you're working between 3 to 6 reps a set, then generally you're going to gain a lot of strength. If you're working from 8 to 12, that's generally ideal for hypertrophy, really building the body and the muscle. Everything in between is great for, kind of that good balance, and anything over that kind of just works into your endurance, and it's not great for your strength or actually building the muscle. So that is essentially the workout portion of that. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that's kind of what you were looking for with all of those messages. Obviously, we could talk about this for hours, but that's the surface level, get you started kind of pitch there. Anyways, on to Yu-Gi-Oh! Today we are entering into our online locals, and I'm really excited about it. We are playing quite an eclectic mix of hero cards. Now, with that, it's important to recognize a realistic set of goals going into this. Generally with heroes, with lists that I do feel are optimal, we get, second, maybe third place, and that's fantastic considering I think heroes are generally a tier or 2 lower than what we are winning against. If we can get second or third, I think that'll really say that we are on the right track with this deck, that we are making some good decisions. If we get fourth or we don't top, then, it'll be like back to the drawing board. We are, definitely reincorporating that Fusion Destiny package, and we're just kind of starting from scratch in terms of new ideas. If we get first place, which realistically, it's not going to happen, and I'm okay with that. I think we've only got first in our locals once with heroes. We've done it a bunch of times with Aldwych, Synchron Aldwych, and Voked Aldwych. When you're playing a top tier deck, winning locals, it's not like the hardest thing in the world, but when you're playing like a tier 3, maybe tier 4 deck, things get significantly more difficult. So those are kind of my thoughts going into this. I am really excited to play regardless. Always just nice to talk to the guys, have those conversations, catch up. And I find during quarantine, it's so beneficial, just mental health wise, having that outlet, having an excuse, a vehicle to talk to friends every single week. It's fantastic, and if you're not doing it, I highly implore you to. With that, we are going to hop into our online locals. have some fun. Jumping into our first match here, we are playing against Andrew, and he is piloting Plunder Patrol. Now, this is actually a really fun deck, and I do feel like it's so close to being like actually competitive. I just feel like it needs a little bit more support, but with that, we did open extremely well, so he wasn't able to do much. We had the Ash Blossom for the Foolish Burial Goods, we had the Lightning Storm for the 2 back row, and we opened with Stratos, which led to Ferris. We were able to discard, and that essentially equates with heroes into full combo, which you are currently seeing happen. Now, we are searching the Liquid Soldier, so we can use it in a fusion for the Sunriser. It's going to allow us to draw a couple cards. We're going to search the Miracle Fusion, make the 0, then we can make the Bane, bring back the Malicious Engrave, which then lets us go into the Dread Decimator, increase all of our monsters' attack points. We do have the Honest Neos in hand, we have the Mash Change, and we have somewhere between 15 and 20,000 damage. Now, the second game was honestly just so much fun, but if you look at our hand, we have a double evenly matched and a Dark Ruler no more. Generally, this is what you would consider a brick due to just so much redundancy, but because of them, we are able to clear his board on the following turn. We do draw into a Ferris, and that lets us really get going. However, we don't kill, and it turns into a 20-turn back and forth. Feels very much like classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Very much dependent on those top decks going back and forth. It was a ridiculously fun game, but in the end, we were able to take the W. Now, jumping into round 2, here we are playing against Ganon, and he is piloting Fluffos. Now, this is actually a really fun deck, obviously a big fan favorite, and for good reason. It's heavy combo, the fusions have really neat effects. Here, it's worth noting that Infinite Impermanence was terribly timed, could have saved it for the Cross Sheep, but you know, you play and you learn. With that, on the note of the Cross Sheep, I think it's quite interesting just how much indirect support Fluffos have gotten in the last little while, particularly right before we went into lockdown, and I wanted to bring that up because I don't know that a lot of people really had a great opportunity to try Fluffos with cards like that of Cross Sheep and Verte Anaconda. Absolutely massive for the deck, incredibly helpful. Here he's bringing out the Sabertooth, which can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. So I look at my hand, I think about my deck, I think about my extra deck, and I realize I do not have an out to this. I can't just run it over, I can't blow it up with Bane. It's just going to be on the board. So I have to start thinking creatively. I look at the Verte Anaconda, I say, you know what? We can make a Trinity, we can increase its attack to 7,500, and we can run it over for game. So I also go in to the Dread Decimator using the Malicious and the Cross Crusader, and then he unfortunately has the Nibiru. So we aren't able to go for that OTK, but we are able to get the Sabertooth off the board. Unfortunately, our hand does consist of double Mask Change, an Honest Neos, and a Dark Calling, so we aren't able to continue playing, but he also isn't able to kill us on the following turn. He does, however, get us down to 2,800 life points. We bring back the increase, and we draw into a Vion, thank goodness. With that, we are able to send the Adustic Gold, we are able to make the Malicious Bane, which can obviously blow up the entirety of his board, and thanks to the double Mask Change and Honest Neos, we are able to do over 10,000 for game. Now, jumping into the second game here, it is actually really interesting because we're both playing going second decks. I anticipated that he would make me go first, and so I sided in cards like that of Anti-Spell Fragrance with the intention of stopping things like that of Toy Vendor and Polymerization. I know that I play a fusion deck, it really does hinder me, and I figured it would have a pretty similar effect on him. With that, we did open with the Stratos, the Ferris. We could have gone full combo, but I do know that he main decks Nibiru, and so I left it at the 3 summons. I set the Anti-Spell, the Poly, the Mash Change. We do use the Ash on the dog, and that puts us in an incredibly good position for our follow-up turn. On his end phase, we do make the Dark Law, we do decide to bring back the Malicious, and we have the Stratos in hand so we can pop both of his back row. This gives us pretty good certainty that we are ready to just go for the OTK, so I make the Sunriser, search the Miracle Fusion, but that doesn't matter all that much because we do have game on board. So, round 2 just concluded. So far, so good. We did take 2 W's there against some really creative decks, having a lot of fun, and I definitely think Plunder Patrol has a lot of potential. It seems like it can do so much with just like another little bit of support. really excited to see how that turns out. But again, so far so good. Really liking the deck at this point. There are definitely instances where I kind of wish that I did have Fusion Destiny, but we did win the first 2 matches, so I guess that would have been more of like a win more scenario. That said, I still think it's a really good card, and I am still kind of keeping it in the back of my head as I play through these matches. That said, we are going to move on to round 3, have some more fun. Now, jumping into the third match here, we are playing against John and Combo Salad, and it's worth noting that he is going first, so we are able to go second and do exactly what we want to do, but he does summon the Lady Debug. We get some redemption with our Infinite Impermanence, actually hitting the correct card this time, and he is able to continue playing. Unfortunately, he does summon the Banelinks, he does have the Exceed. I kind of worried for a second that he would bring out a Dweller, but he does have other plans with the Transcode Talker engine, and as you can see in his hand, he is playing some of those other fun cards that do work in conjunction with them, like the Cynet Conflict. He also has the Cynet Codec, so it's a very combo-heavy variant of what he's doing. Here he is able to bring out the Xcode Talker and, you know, give himself a little bit of protection. With that, we do open extremely well. Again, this deck is operating very consistently with me. I am loving all of my hands. We are bringing out the Stratos. We're discarding the Shadow Mist for Ferris. Not activating the Shadow Mist's effect, though, because we haven't used our normal summon yet, and that means we can bring back the Shadow Mist with the Liquid Soldier a little bit later in the turn, search us a Mash Change that'll give us an extra, 2400 damage, which is always extra useful, and it's great if we don't kill because Dark Law on the board is just incredibly impactful, specifically against Salad. With that, here we are getting back that Mash Change. He realizes that we do have access to the Trinity, and we are simply just going to OTK. So we're now going to jump ahead to the top 4. We are playing against Brandon and Altergeist, a deck I have famously had a really hard time against with heroes, and now he does have multiple Faker. We do start with a Lightning Storm. He does get that Faker out, summons that Silk from deck, and we promptly lose the game. Comedy aside, we are now jumping into the second game, and as per usual, that Pot of Extrav is just glued to his hand. Do you ever have any of those friends who just always have that best card turn 1? By the way, I'm also that friend. I always apparently have a Lightning Storm in my opening hand. We are able to clear the Cosmic Cyclone, the Torrential Tribute. I do bait out the Ash with our E-Call because I really wanted to resolve Stratos. I knew if I could get that, we could discard the Increase and we could really get the combo going. That is exactly how it ended up happening. We got very lucky there. And we also summon the Vion. It, of course, lets us get the Malicious in deck, grab the Polymerization. We summon the Cross Guy, bring back that Malicious. Then we can search the Adjusted Gold, which gives us access to Bane. This is important because, of course, it allows us to clear the Linkuriboh without going into any attacks, and it makes the OTK a lot easier. We also summon the Sunriser to get enough damage on board, search the Miracle Fusion, but we don't end up using it just in case he has Nibiru, and that right there is game. So we are now moving into game 3 against a deck which I am just notoriously bad against. He does open with the Marionetter. We do hit him with the Infinite Imperm, and then he sets a very daunting back row of Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike, and Summon Limit. We do start off with the Lightning Storm. He negates it, but we do have the second. It is glued to our hand, and we are able to clear that back row. From there, we do summon the Ferris. We're able to grab the Stratos for a fantastic normal summon, and that right there is full combo. Do go in for the big damage with the Honest Neos, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is game. So, as a fun update, we are actually moving on to the top 2, now doing, admittedly, significantly better than what I initially expected us to. I do believe also Ganon won his last match. He's a really good player. I mean, the guy's won a regionals, so regardless of what he's playing, he's going to do a good job with it, and I know you guys really like that matchup. So I'm excited to bring you guys the top 2. I'm excited to jump into this. So let's have some more fun with Yu-Gi-Oh! And again, regardless of if we win or lose, it's been a great day. I'm very happy with the deck, with the card choices, and I feel like we've done a good job. Anyways, not going to ramble anymore. We are going to jump into this and see the conclusion to another fantastic online local. So we are now moving into the top 4. We are playing against Ganon. He was able to grind his way up here, and he is going first, which is very, very good for us as we are both playing going second decks. As you will be able to see throughout the course of this turn, he is just able to play forever, very much in the same way heroes are, and I think that's one of the big reasons people really love this deck. It's able to do a lot, but none of it's inherently super unfair. That said, he does end on a single Kraken, which I find incredibly suspicious after he does, all that he does, all of that drawing, all of those activations, and I figure, you know what, he probably has a Nibiru in hand. He probably wants to OTK me on the following turn, so I play it incredibly safe, and we only summon a couple of times. We are able to get that mash change, and so we know we can set up for that following turn, setting that mash change, activating it early in the turn, setting that infinite impermanence, and we're also able to grab a follow-up for the next turn. With that, he does summon the dog. I am able to rip a card from his hand, and then from there, he is able to use multiple sheep, really just go through those fluffle shenanigans, as you can see here, activating the polymerization, bringing out one of his fusions in an attempt to pop some cards, but we do use the imperm. That is essentially our final interruption, and then he activates the Union Carrier, putting the chain in the column that the imperm negated, which was absolutely incredible for us. Really, really strange ruling that the card that is in the back row actually grants the effect of stopping the summoning, but with that, we are able to really just continue playing, apply that pressure, put in that damage, and take that victory. So we are now moving into game 2, and he actually threw me for a loop at the very start of this game. I very much expected to go first myself. He is playing that going second deck, but instead, he opts to go first and attempts to build a very unbreakable board, which is kind of interesting for a going second deck. With that, he does start off with the Vishuda, he summons the dog, then he sets the toy vendor, activates it, and continues to do all of those flufful things. With that said, I'm just very happy that Ganon did decide to play this deck today. I know that we have a lot of Fluffle fans in the comments section. The deck is getting some new support relatively soon, so it's really fun to show off the deck and, all of the amazing things that it can do. With that, here he does have that Verte Anaconda, and that means he is going to get the Sabertooth with its wild effect. Can't be destroyed by card effect, can't be destroyed by battle. Again, not a card in our main or extra deck that can really get through that. He does also have double a pointer. He's able to rip a card. He has the Union Carrier I can't summon from the extra deck, and I am extremely convinced at this point that we lost this game. However, I decide not to scoop because we still have a lot of time left on the clock, and I figured, you know what? I might as well use this opportunity to see what some of his ratios are, if he's playing any interesting cards I just wasn't aware of from the previous games. Maybe I can figure out an interesting stopping point in his combos, and that's something I'd recommend if you do have a lot of time left on the clock. Even if you're certain that you are going to lose a game, you can still gain a lot of information in that game to help you in that game 3. Obviously, if there isn't much time on the clock, yes, scoop it up, go to that game, and just get winning. But in this scenario, we did have an opportunity to learn some things before we lost that game. So we are now jumping into the final game of the tournament, game 3, and I decided to throw Ganon for a little bit of a loop here. Thought it was really smart how in the previous game he decided to go first, really threw me off, and I thought, you know what? We'll give that a try as well. With that, we did open with the Solid Soldier, the Stratos, a Ferris, and a Malicious, which, if you're a hero player, you know is the absolute best opening hand possible, and we are going to be able to combo. With that, it does mean that we've accepted that if he has a Nibiru, we essentially just lose the game, but we really didn't have any other great options, so I said, you know what, it's the final game of the tournament, we're going to have fun with it, and that is exactly what we did. So here, as you can see, we are building our board. We go into that Wonder Driver, use Mash Change on Malicious, summon the Dark Claw, reset the Mash Change, so we can use it on the Shadow Mist on the following turn, get a second Dark Claw, and search a card from deck. We also have the Imperm set and a Summon Limit, which is an absolutely incredible card this format. We do flip that up, and he realizes, oh wait, I've lost the game. So he does end up just having some fun here, ramming his cards, and then at the end of his turn, we do make that Dark Claw, we search off that Shadow Mist, and now, we just kind of get to have fun with that OTK. But man, what a You know, just absolutely a fantastic tournament. What a really fun game 3. You were just able to throw everything on the board. It all worked out. And oh boy, setting that double solemn judgment feels good. With that, we do have game, and that right there is the final damage. So, despite going with a fairly unconventional list, running our own card choices, coming up with this from the ground up using a hypergeometric calculator, we were able to get first place, something I did not think we'd be able to achieve in it. And honestly, it felt so good to kind of stray away from just using the same deck list that everybody else was using. And while I do not think a single online locals is enough to justify playing card X or not playing card X, I do think it's enough to really hammer home the point that you can play your own deck, you can play your own cards, you can make these decisions and still find success. I would like to note that everything you just watched actually occurred about a month and a half ago. Ever since then, we did kind of move out of the rogue format that we were playing in. A lot of us now are playing at Emancipator, Aldrich, Hawk Turbo, and kind of jumping back into that as, you know, maybe the promise of real larger events do return. So with that, I do want to run you through what that's looked like. We ended up winning 4 weeks ago with Aldrich, 3 weeks ago with Aldrich Synchron, then 2 weeks ago, we ended up coming in second with Aldrich Synchron to Aldrich Numeron. By the way, that deck is very, very good. It also came in third that week, so I decided to build my own variant, play it last week, and I was able to win with that as well. I've been looking back on the last couple of months, kind of how much we've improved, the opportunities we've had, and it's incredible the scenarios we found ourselves in. You know, we got to collaborate with Nyhmnims, the guy who actually inspired this channel. We got to test for regionals with legends like Yassine and national champion Gabriel Vargas, who I've actually collaborated with a number of times now. Cimo, he invited me into the YugiTuber Grand Championship, where in this episode, I got to play with Farfo, one of my favorite streamers. We reached 25,000 subscribers in the first 9 months of this channel's life. Episode 1 broke over 100,000 views, and now I'm talking to my favorite creators like John and Sam pretty regularly. It's also worth noting that Jesse Cotton has been coaching me over the last 4 months, which has just been incredible considering, you know, when I jumped into this game, I almost immediately found his deck profiles online and became completely enamored with his deck building, his ratios, and became a huge fan the same way I was of guys like Dale or Lazaro Bolito way back in the day. It all kind of cumulatively came together and made me realize we've returned to Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I've talked a lot about getting better at the game and improving technical skill, but I really do feel the most important part of returning to Yu-Gi-Oh! Was making the incredible friendships along the way. I mean, I got to reconnect with Mario, who after 10 years started his own shop, with Ryan Kane, who again has always just been like the perfect older brother to me. I had the best time talking to hundreds of you guys out at various regionals, hearing your stories, making those connections, and I've also now had the opportunity to meet just so many amazing friends who I have the pleasure of playing with every single Saturday. I mean, you guys must have heard of Carter, Gannon, Blake a dozen times by now. That is what Yu-Gi-Oh! Does. It acts as a vehicle, a conduit to making connections that sometimes last decades. It turns strangers into brothers and gives adults an excuse to go out and see dozens of their friends weekly. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has had an incredible impact on my life over the last year, and while I feel like we have returned, this journey, it is still far from over. I've got some big goals, big ideas, and massive projects already in the works. I cannot wait to show you guys what's next, but right here, right now, I simply want to implore all of you out there, if you haven't already, consider returning to Yu-Gi-Oh!
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 Consider getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh!